Welcome into the First Cut podcast alongside the regulars, Kyle Porter and Rick Gaiman. I'm here and fortunate to be here, fellas. Joe Musso running point on this one. Shout out to the listeners, first and foremost.
They're passionate.
We got to say it, that they are. We had a Tiger commitment. We had a streaker. And we have a leaderboard taking form on brand in the best way here at the WM Phoenix Open here on Friday. Round 2 not complete just yet. Again, just like today, we'll have golfers out early cleaning up the final edition of the second round. But guys, we got to start with Scottie Scheffler. 10 under, our defending champ, following a bogey-free 7 under 64. Scheffler gaining nearly 6 strokes on the field. Rick, where did he separate himself most here in round 2?
Yeah, you mentioned it. Bogey-free. He's made 1 bogey this week. That was 32 holes ago. And with the winds and everything that's kicking up, we've seen a lot of squares, but not on Scottie Scheffler's card. The way he's doing it is the way he's been playing golf for the last 6 months. Without a victory, he's been tee to greening these golf courses to death, and he's done it again through 2 rounds. This week, he's gained already over 9 strokes from tee to green. It's 3 more than anybody else in the field. He's gaining less than a stroke with the putter. Kyle, we've talked about this countless times, and I think I've been on the record. I think I've said the next time Scottie Scheffler gains 2 strokes with the putter, he's going to win a golf tournament. Now, he's got a John Rahm buzzsaw to consider, but that's a pretty clean 64.
Yeah, that's a Steph Curry scorecard. A lot of threes on that scorecard. 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3.
He got to the hoop there at 12.
3. He did. That's a Draymond number right there. And then 33 on the back, so more threes. I mean, Scottie was phenomenal, and this is, the thing we were kind of talking about a couple minutes ago is this is very different than what he did at the Phoenix Open last year. This time last year, Joe, after 36 or however close we get to being done with 36, nobody's even thinking about Scottie Scheffler. Mm-hmm. He's barely making the cut. He's playing early on Saturday, and then he goes on to win the golf tournament. So he's in a very different position in this tournament, but he's also in a very different position in his career, right? Think about winning 4 times at the beginning of last year, where he's at. I think he's second in the OWGR right now. I thought it was interesting. He got asked afterwards, does it bother you that everybody's talking about Rahm and Rory being the 2 best players in the world coming into this week? And he said, not really. I agree with that. Like, they are.
One of us.
Scottie's just, and he said this, remember at the Open when he was like, I'm rooting for Rory as well. Mm-hmm. Like he's the nicest assassin in the world, and really has an opportunity to go out and get, it wouldn't be the biggest win of his career. Obviously won the Masters last year and won a bunch of big tournaments, but it would be a nice kind of kickstart to him. After not having won, I mean, he hadn't won in almost a year now. His last win was the Masters.
It would be his first successful title defense because this was his first career victory a year ago. You mentioned it there, a little bit of the wisdom and what it might take to get it done this week, KP. Wisdom, sometimes you take the foot off the pedal. How aggressive do you expect Scottie to be here over the final 36 holes of this tournament, knowing he is at the top of that leaderboard and not dancing on the cut line the way he was last year heading into Saturday?
Yeah, I think he's going to still go after flags. He's not. He's not. I mean, he's smart, but to be. I was looking at last 50 rounds. It's Rory number 1 and Scottie number 2 in terms of ball striking. That's really good company to be in. And so I don't think, especially with the guys he's got behind him. He's got Rahm just behind him. You've got Xander. You've got Spieth is up there. You've got Sungjae. I mean, it's not a list where you get conservative and kind of cruise to victory. I think he's going to continue to go after flags.
You better not let off the gas. Look in the rear view, John Rahm. John Rahm lurking. Yeah, that's going to be a problem. So it's a different style, not only statistically, but the way that he's going to go to sleep at the halfway point for him this year compared to last year. But he's going to have to go out and make some birdies, or he's going to have to go out and not spend some strokes. We expect things to get more firm, more fast over the weekend, and that's kind of what he was able to take advantage of last year. So it might not be going out, firing at flags, putting a bunch of circles on the card. He's certainly going to need a handful of those, but not spending strokes, which honestly, that's what Scottie's so good at. He has such a sharp short game.
Sharp short game. I'm curious, Rick, is Scottie we have this conversation a lot, or some variation of it. Is he the most underrated guy in the world right now? Because coming into this, he hasn't won in what feels, it hasn't been that long, but it feels like a long time. And yet, if you look at his numbers, if you look at his ball striking, his tee to green, his approach play, it's unbelievable.
He is self-inflicted underrated because the advanced metrics are there, but because he is, like you said, kind of like quiet, the nicest assassin in the world. He never even got, I don't want to say credit for being the number one player in the world, but it never really felt like he was the number one player in the world because we've seen so many guys over the years that would stomp your throat. And not to say that Scottie doesn't have that in there somewhere. He's just such a nice guy, and it's hard to kind of get to that point.
All right, but let's contextualize that because I think when you do have the success, that Scottie had last season, we tend to look at the sample size and we make it more than what it is. 12 months ago, we're talking about a guy who did not have a PGA Tour win, had some successful starts in the year prior, but Scottie Scheffler and the sample size we're looking at is about a year long. And when you look at the rest of this leaderboard, you're talking about stalwarts of this game. What does that tell you about Scheffler? And maybe what does that tell you about us, KP, and the way that we maybe consume the golf that is played by these younger names?
Well, I think what happens, and we've talked about this too, I think what happens when you win when you win the majority of your events in such a condensed period of time, it creates all sorts of expectation issues, I guess, if you want to call them. So let's pretend like, I mean, even coming into 2022, Scheffler, I remember talking about this, Rick. We were talking about him of like, hey, this guy's a top 10 guy statistically, and he kind of needs to win at some point. And then all he did for 6 straight weeks was win. And so I think, Joe, like if he, let's pretend like he had spread those wins out. Like he wins one in the fall of 2021. He wins, let's say this one, the Masters, and then the BMW.
Or just call it 5 wins in 12 months, which is what it could be if he wins this week, spread out, right? Just 5 wins in 12 months.
I think the condensed nature of it just messes with expectations, not only for us, but of the player himself.
For sure. But internally, Scottie Scheffler, whether it's 12 months, 24 months, 5 wins, 10 wins, whenever they've come, he looks primed for these types of moments against these types of fields, Rick.
Yeah, I mean, the quality of the wins is also huge,
Most
right?
certainly.
I mean, he won 4 massive events. So when you get to a field that has a strength of field that rivals major championships and those, WGCs, RIP, it is something he's not going to blink, right? And he's beaten these guys before. He's been the name at the top of some of these absolutely massive fields, and this one feels like a major championship. We've heard it countless times from players and caddies and everybody involved that this feels like a major championship. There's a lot of money on the line. Scottie does not care.
Did you see the shot he hit, Joe, into I don't know if we have it, hopefully we have it on here, into 16 today? So he hits it, and he talked about this afterward. He hits this iron shot into 16, and it lands 10 feet left of the pin, and then it rolls off the green to the right. And he said it was, he talked about it afterward, of like that's a very unusual situation, and I think it speaks to how difficult this golf course is playing and how kind of fast and firm these greens are getting.
He's sitting at 10, but there aren't a whole lot of red numbers when you look at the entirety of the field here. Impressive golf being played by both Scottie Scheffler and the Chase Pack. We're going to get to that Chase Pack here in just a moment on the First Cut podcast. We're going to take a quick break, but on the other side, we'll also have a story from Kyle Porter about, let's call it a players-only Porta-John encounter. More on that
Porta potty. What
in
a
just
lead.
a moment.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.